I'll tell you what, over the past month, if I have not received hundreds of email from just a phenomenal grassroots campaign, I can't tell you. Michael, you ever have a good Debra on? You got to talk to Debra. So I got a few questions for her, and looking forward to introducing myself and hearing from her. Debra Medina is a candidate, actually officially a candidate, I guess, this coming Saturday when she announces. I have her on the phone over here. Debra, how are you?
Good morning, Michael. It's a great privilege to be on with you this morning.
Well, thank you so much. Listen, Debra Medina, there's the name. I certainly have heard it from your grassroots constituents between emails and Facebook hits. Can you get Debra on? And to be quite honest, with all due respect, I literally had to Wikipedia Debra Medina. You have an uphill battle. We have Governor Rick Perry. We have U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson from the Republican side who are vying for the governor of the state of Texas. These are political powerhouses. Do you feel at this point, Debra, are you getting lost? What's your overall goal to stand up and get your name out and get those votes versus these two big political figures?
I think if you take a little bit different look at some of those polling, some of the polling that's been done around the state, you'll see well over 35% of the people that are asked want somebody else, and just insert the name Debra Medina in place of somebody else. I'm that candidate that we're all looking for, that person that really brings the principled ideology back to the political office. And Kay and Rick have made it clear they're sold out to international bankers and international business. They're not taking care of Texans, and that's why I'm in this race. Looking
at your background, and I was trying to do as much research as I could on you. You were a former Wharton County Republican chair. Other than that, in terms of public service, not much there. How long were you in that position? You did a lot of work with the Ron Paul campaign. If you could sum it up in just a sentence or two, Debra, your qualifications for governor is?
As someone who understands the proper role of government, I think we mislead ourselves a little bit when we think you have to have served in high political office before in order to do that. Ronald Reagan had never done that, and certainly he went on to be one of the great political leaders. We've got lots of folks throughout history who haven't held office before. It's that person who understands what it is to keep the lights on in a business, to keep dinner on the table, and to raise a family. And that's where my time and energy has been focused, although I've been really, really active politically since the early 90s and was in the midst of my third term as Republican County Chair when I undertook this race.
I'm looking at your website, and I'm looking at some of the, let's just say, proposed statewide initiatives, some of the key things that you see that Texas continues to need to go towards: life, spending, property rights, state sovereignty, party platform, and term limits. You're big on term limits. Explain your thoughts on these term limits, because this is something that I've talked about on my program for the past few months.
I think that we maybe look at that, I maybe look at that in a little bit different light. I don't see it really as punishment. I see it as the responsible thing to do. We all see politics, I think, as a corrupting environment. We don't leave our children in a corrupting environment for prolonged periods of time knowing that they're likely to make unwise decisions. And if we were responsible citizens, we probably wouldn't be leaving our public servants in that corrupting environment for prolonged periods of time either. It's the responsible thing to do to say, go, serve us well, but you need to come home, because the influence and the pressure there is so great that not everyone will cave, but most will. And most will become corrupted by that process. If we want to ensure allegiance to principles and ideas, the very things that we elect people for, we need them to go and serve for a time and then come home.
Do you have a time in mind? Is it a 4-year term, 8-year term, anything beyond that?
Yeah, I think what we tend to see both in party office and in, the U.S. president, where we have term limits, it's typically 2 terms. What we have on our petition is let's let the delegates at the state convention, we're pushing to have that established as a party rule, knowing it's highly unlikely the legislature's ever going to do it, but a political party can put that rule in place and limit its candidates in that way. And so I'm looking forward to the delegates debating that at next year's state convention.
I put a clip of YouTube on my blog at the950.com. This is a speech, Debra, I think you made on the steps of the Capitol a few weeks ago towards the end of August. Very fiery speech, very passionate. I certainly could appreciate that. The term secession has come up several times when I'm watching this and when I'm doing some research under your name. What are your thoughts on Texas and seceding?
I think that, the governor tossed that out and kind of created a firestorm back in April. Certainly there are lots of people. I was on a phone call with Americans for Prosperity even early during the legislative session, and each caller that called in, rather than talking about the economic condition of the state of Texas, was focused on secession. I don't believe that's the proper remedy. I think that the issue in Austin was sovereignty, and there are a number of remedies available to us as a state we haven't even began to use. Those are nullification and interposition. The founders talked about them. We should be using them here in Texas. We should be using them aggressively. Those are the proper remedies for ensuring state sovereignty, and that's the direction we ought to be pressing.
I think you would compare to the words you used that I think it was a bloody war, or you were aware that there could be bloodshed to be cut into succession.
Yeah, I think when people shout, "Oh, let's just secede," we all need to, take the rose-colored glasses off there. That's not sending a letter of resignation. You go down that trail, you better be prepared. We all better be prepared for a bloody war. And I think, preparing for a worst-case scenario certainly doesn't mean you hope for that. I hope to never go there, but I'm not going to take that lightly. I'm not going to say, "Oh, yeah, sure, we'll just do that," which is, I think, kind of the attitude that the governor had before I start throwing around something that could likely cause bloodshed of my son and other Texas sons and daughters. I think we better be real careful. And there are remedies available to us that we ought to be using. Let's be careful not to be tossing around that type of terminology, because it can cause some serious ramifications and repercussions. That's not what I'm advocating for, and I hope folks understand that.
Yeah, the secession, that was a very, very hot topic months ago when Governor Perry threw that out. Almost potentially a laughingstock from states outside of the great state of Texas. It's like, can Texas really do that? But there are a lot of ramifications. Debra Medina, she is running for the Republican side of the governor of Texas. Debra, listen, I know you're very busy. I think you're announcing your candidacy officially in Dallas this coming Saturday. Is that right?
That's right. Weston Galleria, Saturday morning at 9:30.
Well, listen, we thank you for your time. You're very busy. I'm sure that we're going to cross paths several times. I know Joe Pags before me. He's interested in speaking with you, so I'm sure you'll be hitting the airwaves many, many times between now and the election. But, hey, listen, we do wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Michael.